Hi, I am Wendy with AP History Help, and you are here because you're about to take AP U.S. History, or your child is, or you're about to teach it. And I'm going to give you, in about 15 minutes or less, what to expect and how to be successful in the course. So let's get started. What is AP U.S. history? And by the way, you're going to be hearing it called APUSH. It's pretty much what all of us insiders call it. Uh, it is a college level course. It covers American history from 1491 until more or less now. The people, the documents, the events. Let me go back to it is a college level course, meaning you are expected to learn at a level that college students are learning, and you're expected to do the skills of history. It is challenging, but very rewarding. You will learn how to analyze sources, write essays, think critically. No one's expecting you to be able to do that at the beginning of the course, unless maybe you've taken an AP history class before. But by the end of the course, you can earn possible college credit if you show that you have those skills that enable you to analyze sources, write essays, and think critically. Now, possible college credit. Most colleges will award credit for earning a 3 or higher on the exam. There are some that are a little bit more discerning than that. So if you want to know if the college that you're thinking about going to, or college or colleges, whether they take a 3 as a passing score or not, you can go to that website that's showing on the screen there, apstudent.org/credit policies. And when you go to my website to get these slides, uh, the slides all will have clickable links, so that will make it super easy for you. Basically, when you take the exam, you get a score from 1 to 5. 2 is, possibly qualified, but the equivalent of like a C minus or a D. A 3 is considered qualified with a score of a C or C plus or a B minus. A 4 would be the equivalent of like a B, B plus, or A minus, and then a 5 would be extremely well qualified. So that's more or less how the scores are broken down on that exam that you will take in May. Now, the course content. Several of the periods that are covered in APUSH overlap, and some do not. Now, there are 9 total periods of study. They do not have names. They are just called period 1, period 2, period 3. A nice little review activity might be to try to give them names when you get to the end of each one. But essentially, you can see which ones are more important than others. Unit 1 and Unit 9 both, they don't get a whole lot of love from the College Board at only 4 to 6% of the total test covering those 2 periods. Unit 2, 6 to 8%, and then all the rest are somewhere between 10 and 17% of the test will be on those periods, each one of those periods. Another thing that you can do as you are going from one period of study to the next is say to yourself, why does this period end when it does? Or why does this period begin when it does? There's usually some kind of a turning point event that happens that defines the beginning and or end of the periods. Now, this is the stuff that makes this more than just facts and people and documents. It's what you do with all of it, the historical thinking skills and reasoning processes. Now, it's just a coincidence that they all seem to start with the letter C. Uh, and 3 of them get a whole lot of love in the APUSH world, actually in the AP history world. Causation, comparison, and changing continuity. Your essays, your short answer questions, your multiple choice questions in some cases are going to look at cause and effect. They're going to look at comparing across time periods or across places. And they're going to look at changing continuity. In other words, what changed over time and what was a continuity or what stayed the same over time periods. Now, the other C's are interwoven throughout the course. Chronology. You don't necessarily have to memorize specific dates, maybe a few, but not everything. It's more important that you understand the order in which things happened in time. What came before something, what came after something, and in general, when something happened. It's a good idea to know, the War of 1812. That one's easy. Early 1800s. Whereas the Civil War, mid 1800s. World War One, early to the teens of the 1900s. So just have a general sense of when things happened. And then the other orange bubble: contextualization, sourcing, claims and evidence, and connections. These are all things that are important to understand what they are and to be able to do in your study of AP US history. Now, I have a podcast, and in that podcast, there are episodes that focus on many of these historical reasoning skills all by themselves, that focuses on causation, comparison, and changing continuity. So look those up, AP History Help. It's back on the first season that I did those, but those historical reasoning skills, they haven't changed. Now, don't get overwhelmed by this little graph here. This is put out by College Board to let you know what themes are important in APUSH and in what units those themes are covered. So when you're studying, when you're learning new material, one way to categorize your new learning is by saying to yourself, okay, this thing that I'm learning about has to do with migration or settlement. So I'm going to write that in the margin, and that's going to help me to go back to one of those C words, connection, right? Connecting across time the patterns of migration and settlement. Now, the more check marks, the more frequent those themes appear. And Unit 8, look at that. Every single theme is covered in Unit 8, and all but one of them are covered in Unit 7. So use that as a way to sort of organize your note taking. Now, we could get into details about each one of these themes here and be a little bit on the overwhelmed side. I kind of like to break it down more into the pieces of history: political, innovative and technological, economic, cultural, environmental, and social. Now, the themes back here are more or less going to fit into the themes here. And the themes here are the ones that you're more likely to see in test questions, in essay prompts. It's a great way to answer a question where they ask you to evaluate something. You could evaluate the political and the economic aspects of something. So an easier way to categorize your learning into themes is to just think of it as the pieces of history. And then you only have to know what PIECES stands for. Now, the exam. The exam is a toughie. It's 3 hours and 15 minutes long without the breaks, right? Just total test time is 3 hours and 15 minutes. And it's broken into 2 sections, and each of those sections is broken into a part. So section 1, part A, is 55 multiple choice questions. You have 55 minutes for that, so 1 minute per question, and that's 40% of the grade. These are stimulus-based questions, meaning you get some kind of a passage or a picture or a chart or graph, and then you have a series of questions that follow that at least relate to that stimulus. the more you practice these types of questions, the better you're going to get at them. They are very challenging when you first start having to answer them. They are designed to be some easier than others. Practice those questions. Whenever you get the opportunity, whether it's through AP Classroom or through a review site or book, practice those multiple choice questions. Part B then, still in section 1 of the test, as soon as you're done with the multiple choice, at 55 minutes, you roll on into 3 short answer questions. You get 40 minutes for those 3 questions, so about 13 minutes each. And that's worth a total of 20% of your overall grade. Now, the first 2 questions, the first 2 short answer questions, you get a stimulus for. Question 1 can be anywhere from 1754 to 1980, and you get a secondary source. Question 2, same time period. In this case, you get a primary source. And then question 3, you actually get to pick whether you're going to answer question 3 or question 4. Question 3 will be from the earlier portion of the course, 1491 to 1877. Question 4 will be from the latter part of the course, 1865 to 2001. Now, you don't get a source for those questions. It's just like, here's the questions, now you can answer them. Again, the more you practice these and read exemplars, the better you're going to get at them. Now, they're called short answer questions, but basically each question ends up being a nice size, if not full page answer. They're not really that short. Now, you're going to get a little break in between section 1 and section 2. Go to the bathroom, get a drink, maybe eat a protein snack, and then you roll on into your essay questions. The first essay question is called a document-based essay question. You get 7 documents with a central question, and you read and analyze those documents and use them to support your answer to the question. Again, the more you practice with this type of question, the better you're going to get. You should spend between 60 and 75 minutes on the document-based essay question. It is worth 25% of your grade. Once you're finished with that, and this is actually, the document-based essay question is actually the longer essay, but the next essay is called the long essay question. This one, you get a choice of 3 questions, 3 prompts to answer, and you pick whichever one you feel most comfortable with, and you write to the best of your ability in response to the prompt. Now, this is only worth 15% of your overall grade. And like I said, you get a choice. And the first question is from 1491 to 1800. The second question is 1800 to 1898. And the third one is 1890 to 2001. So you pick whichever one you feel most comfortable answering. When you are finished with the exam, you will be exhausted. You will need a nap. Don't plan on celebrating because you were just not going to have the energy to do that. And then you will get your scores early July. Yeah, you have to wait that long. So how do you succeed in AP History? Well, AP History is less about memorization and more about big picture connections. So look for those big picture connections, thematic connections, the causation as you're learning the course. And knowing that up front is going to put you in a much better position when it comes time to take tests. If you're not an organized person, you're going to need to try to institute some kind of system of organization, because getting organized and staying organized will help you to do much better throughout the whole course, not to mention the exam at the end. Manage your time efficiently. If you're not good with managing time, take a time management class. See if you can't work on that a little bit. Definitely remove distractions from your life. Definitely use a timer for focused study time. Practice writing. Practice the short answer questions, the document-based essay questions, the long essay questions, and try to get feedback on your answers, on your essays. And then use timelines and graphic organizers. Teachers like these for a reason. Timelines, again, I said you don't have to memorize dates, but you should know where things happen in order. So Some kind of illustrated or organized timeline is a really good idea. Not to mention those graphic organizers because they help you to see themes in history. Speaking of timelines, make sure you understand the difference between the 1700s and the 18th century. That's right, there is no difference. They are the same time period. And if you think back to where time began in year one, 1 to 99 is the first century. So then when we get into the hundreds to 199 is the second century. That's why that happens. So make sure you understand just how time works. All right, that brings us to the end. I am about to tell you to go forth and do your thing with your APUSH course. But first, if you go to my website at aphistoryhelp.com, a little pop-up will come up, and all you got to do is put your email address in there, and you will get a link to these slides. So you can keep these handy all year long to help you get through your course in case you have any questions, in case you want to let your friends know just how much you know about APUSH. Also, the slides will have clickable links. So you can go to my YouTube channel where you can see some of my old podcast videos, or you could go to the audio version of my podcast. I'm on social media. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Substack at AP History Help. It's the same for all four places. And if you have any questions, if you get stuck, if you're looking for help with things like time management or writing those essay questions or answering those multiple choice questions, shoot me an email at wendy@aphistoryhelp.com. I'm here to help you get through the course. And with that, I hope you have a very successful year and an awesome school year. Thanks for joining me.